Beneath the ground in the cemetery of the pharaohs, archaeologists discover hidden treasures from ancient Egypt's original golden age. A rare statue reveals the man who invented the pyramid.
Unbelievable.
And became a god.
A wonderful statue. Wow.
At Saqqara in Egypt, archaeologists have discovered a series of megatombs that reveal a 5,000-year-old story.
Saqqara encapsulates the entire history of ancient Egypt from the very, very beginning to the end of the Roman Empire.
Now, they are on a mission to solve its mysteries, filmed with unprecedented access.
I can't believe my own eyes.
They are discovering a world beyond the pharaohs, as it has never been seen before.
What we found in the last 2 years in this area not represent 10% of what we are going to find.
As the team investigates a mysterious ancient tomb, they uncover a devastating family tragedy and a 4,000-year-old unsolved crime from the age of the pyramids. At the ancient cemetery of Saqqara, 19 miles south of Cairo, a team of Egyptian archaeologists excavates beneath the ruins of a sacred temple. So far, they have discovered 2 incredible underground megatombs that contain more than 100 coffins. Now they want to explore another mysterious burial chamber located across the site. This one isn't underground. It's cut directly into a cliff face. Site director Dr. Mohammed Youssef believes it's the team's most intriguing find yet. The tomb has an unusual limestone window next to the door.
It is unique. It is, for me, it is rare and strange.
Tombs of this style at Saqqara are normally windowless.
We didn't find examples like this until now. For me, it's the first time to see this example in the facade of the tomb.
I think we have something very special here.
Ancient inscriptions cover the window. They reveal the name of the tomb's owner, a man called Pinomis, and those of his wife, Ipet, and their children.
Very fine, because we have the full information for the owner of the tomb and his family.
How old is this tomb? Dr. Mohammed uses the style of the symbols to figure out their age. He thinks someone carved them more than 4,000 years ago, during a time known as the Old Kingdom.
This tomb dates back to around 2,400 year BC, and we can see it from the names, from the titles, from everything.
The Old Kingdom was Egypt's original golden age. It began around 2600 BC and lasted 450 years.
The Old Kingdom represents the first great flowering of Egyptian civilization. It is the period that we associate the wonderful monuments of Egypt, the Great Pyramid, the Great Sphinx, and beautiful, wonderful works of art.
The discovery of an Old Kingdom tomb is rare and hugely exciting. Most of the team's finds until now have been from much later in Egypt's history. This tomb predates them by around 2 millennia. As they step through the door, the interior immediately takes their breath away. On the far wall is a set of perfectly preserved painted inscriptions.
الحلاوة بقى، شوف الحلاوة، شوف وكأن الفنان لسه مخلص البتاع دي النهارده. أستاذ أحمد؟ لسه حالا نخلص.
لا باب وهمي رائع بصراحة.
The inscriptions have a prominent position in the center of the tomb. They cover a type of panel called a false door, a magical gateway to the afterlife. The ancient Egyptians believed that after death, part of their soul, called the Ba, took the form of a bird with a human head. It could move between the worlds of the living and the dead, but it needed a portal to travel through.
False door is very important. It was where the Ba could move between the realm. It's the gate to freedom.
These doorways were highly decorated to represent the essence of the owner.
It would have the person's titles, name, and image. Everything about that person that they could cram in that small space, they would.
Muhammad can now put a face to the name. The paintings show Pinomus alongside his wife and children, including a tender portrait of a daughter clinging to her mother's clothes. One title says a lot about the kind of man he was. He's named as a royal acquaintance.
The title Royal Acquaintance was definitely used for someone who was close to the king, someone who would have been from the king's closest circle. So it would have been an advisor, a minister, very high-ranking government official.
Pharaohs in the Old Kingdom had absolute power and unlimited wealth. They were useful connections to have in the afterlife.
Everybody in this time want to be near the king. When he wrote in the tomb that the king know me, for him it's like passport to get easily in the second life without any problems.
Lavish false doors were something only the rich could afford, like commissioning an artist to create a family portrait today. How did Pinomus achieve his wealth and status? As Dr. Muhammad deciphers the hieroglyphs, he finds a clue, the sign of the blue jackal.
Here he has the title Zab, that means he was a judge.
The numerous symbols of the blue jackal are references to Pinomus's illustrious career as a judge, or what Egyptians called a judicial tallyman.
A judicial tallyman is an individual who has this high legal position that combines something of a legislator with a judge with an attorney. And these titles are held by the senior-most officials of the administration.
This false door is beautifully decorated, but exploring the rest of the tomb reveals something very unusual. It's completely bare and seems unfinished, as if construction had simply stopped. The only other features are a number of visible burial shafts. A rich man's tomb from the Old Kingdom should look very different. This is the tomb of Mehu, a top-ranking official who also lived in Egypt's affluent Old Kingdom. It is one of the finest private tombs at Saqqara.
Old Kingdom tombs in Saqqara were very elaborately decorated. They were beautiful, vibrant, full of color, full of scenes of offerings, food, a lot of servants.
Pinomus would have aspired to a tomb like this one, but what the team sees before them pales in comparison.
When I enter the tomb of Pinomus, I'm disappointed when I see the walls because it looks unfinished. I hope it was polished and finished.
The team is determined to find the reason for the stark condition of this tomb. So they start the excavation, searching for evidence that will solve the mystery. Their number one priority now is to find the body of Pinomus. As a passageway unseen for millennia is revealed, could they be within striking distance of the man himself?
This is a burial chamber.
Saqqara, Egypt. The hunt is on for a wealthy tomb owner called Pinomus. His tomb is around 300 square feet, roughly the size of a large single garage, with numerous burial shafts carved into the floor. Traditionally, these lead to underground burial chambers containing the bodies of the deceased. The team focuses their dig on the shaft directly under the false door. This is where the tomb owner would usually be buried and where they hope they'll find their man. After a few hours, the archaeologists uncover an entrance. But a giant limestone slab partially blocks their way.
I see behind now, it is sloped the corridor. It's limestone slabs which covers the entrance.
The slab is so heavy, it takes 7 men to drag it out. With the way in clear, Muhammad discovers a passageway unseen for thousands of years.
This is a burial chamber.
He hopes he is about to come face to face with Pinomus himself. But something looks wrong.
You can see a lid of limestone sarcophagus. Also it cracked. Ancient robbers enter here.
Tomb robbers have beaten him to it. It's a devastating discovery. The heavy stone lid of the sarcophagus is smashed, but has the body survived?
We are looking out to reach the burial chamber.
Muhammad is still hoping for an intact body. What he finds is shocking. Broken human remains are all that lies scattered inside. From the body's position under the false door, the team is certain that this is the tomb's owner.
We have the body of Pinomus.
It's a sad end for this once great man. Pinomus wasn't the only victim of these ancient criminals. Tomb robbers were the scourge of Egypt. They stole anything they could get their hands on, from alabaster jars to jewelry. Their raids were fast and frantic, with little respect for the dead. In their hunt for riches, the thieves often ripped apart the most important things people needed for the afterlife, their mummies.
The Egyptians mummified themselves as a form of self-preservation. The body needed to get to the afterlife safely, because then the soul reunites again with the body. Mummification actually happened earlier on, but the first mummies were definitely much poorer than the ones you get in later periods.
Early mummies were very fragile. Mummification was a relatively new technique in Pinomus's time, and very few survive. But another, much younger mummy discovered close to the tomb gives us an insight into what well-preserved bodies looked like. This one was created almost 2,000 years later, when the Egyptians had perfected the mummification process.
The mummy well wrapped, well mummified, in perfect condition of preservation. Look at the condition. It's really amazing.
Pinomus's mummy would have been much less robust. It made him even more vulnerable to the violent tomb robbers. Many robberies happened soon after a tomb was sealed for the final time.
Short time after the death of the last one of Pinomus' family, the thieves came searching for the treasures. They went to the main shaft of Pinomus. They broke the lid of the sarcophagus.
Tomb robbery was often an inside job.
Looters in ancient Egypt are very clever. Some of it may be architect and official and workmen and so on. So they know the location of the tomb and they know the shafts.
But the thieves who ransacked Pinomus's tomb didn't need insider knowledge to find its location. Pinomus advertised it by mistake. The unusual inscribed window by the door would have alerted criminals that people and treasure were buried inside. The team now needs to analyze what remains of Pinomus's skeleton to see if it holds any clues to explain the strange, unfinished condition of his tomb. But they also have other burial shafts to explore. They hope the thieves didn't take every artifact from the tomb, so they step up the dig. Then, there's a breakthrough. Workers discover shards of ancient pottery. Egyptologist Ahmed Zikri uses this to narrow down when Pinomus lived.
The pottery is very important for us to know exactly the date of the tomb. This pottery, exactly Old Kingdom, 6th dynasty. So we have many examples before. We have many tombs. We have a lot of potteries with the same materials, the same design of this one.
Pinomus lived towards the end of the Old Kingdom, around 2250 BC. At this time, the world was in the middle of the Bronze Age. A pharaoh named Pepi II ruled Egypt for over 90 years, becoming the country's longest reigning king. And the golden age of the pyramids was reaching its climax. Discoveries at Saqqara shine a light on this magnificent era, when the ancient Egyptians constructed some of the world's most famous monuments.
Allah.
Wow. A wonderful statue. I think this statue for a scribe sitting in his chair, holding roll of papyrus by his two hands, but unfortunately, he lost the head of it.
This bronze statue, found near Pinomus's tomb, depicts an Egyptian official, the sort of man he might have known. It's unusual. Bronze was a metal reserved mainly for gods and kings because it could be finely crafted into beautiful forms. A closer inspection reveals that this person is no ordinary man. Using computer modeling to replace the head, the tiny statue becomes instantly recognizable. It depicts a superstar of the ancient world who can now be found in museums across the globe. The inventor of the pyramid, Imhotep. Imhotep was the greatest architect in Egyptian history. He created a unique design for the pharaoh Djoser's tomb, a house of eternity, the likes of which had never been seen before. He transformed a traditional single-story tomb known as a mastaba, enlarging it, and then adding a further 5 stories. The result was one of the most iconic monuments in all of Egypt.
The Step Pyramid at Saqqara is a mind-boggling wonder. It is the first monument completely made in stone.
Nobody knew if it was going to succeed or not, but then it turned out to be very successful and it stands very beautifully until today. The Step Pyramid was what led to the building of the Great Pyramid in Giza.
Imhotep's Step Pyramid marked a turning point in Egypt's history. It signaled the start of a glorious new era spanning 450 years and created the world in which Pinomus lived. A time of stability, wealth, and innovation when enormous building projects, constructed by thousands of workers, filled the landscape. The age of the pyramids. But as a wealthy, important man from this illustrious era, Pinomus ended up with a strangely basic tomb.
You can see the remains of the chiseling tools everywhere. So which it means that this tomb, or a big part of this tomb, is unfinished.
Why did Pinomus choose to spend his eternal afterlife in a tomb only half built? Egyptologist Ahmed Zikri is examining Pinomus's bones, hoping to find an explanation. But the damage done by the tomb robbers is extensive.
They came disturbing in this place for afterlife, in this tomb. His bones have no more details about the reason of his death. It is a very difficult moment to see something like this, to see bones or a skeleton more than 4,000 years old.
Pinomus's skeleton can't provide any clues, so his chamber is sealed and he is left to rest in peace. But the team refuses to give up hope. As they continue to dig for answers, could they finally discover the lost treasures they've been hoping for? In the tomb of a wealthy Old Kingdom judge, the hunt continues for any artifacts left by the tomb robbers. The team believes they could shed light on why this chamber was left unfinished. As the archaeologists dig, a set of carved limestone trays suddenly emerge from the rubble. They identify them as offering tables. Offering tables were stone plates where people could bring gifts of food and drink for the deceased. They hoped this would keep the dead well-fed and refreshed in the afterlife.
The Egyptians believed that the afterlife was a replica of the life they were living. An idyllic kind of an agricultural landscape where we see the deceased working in the fields, because the afterlife was basically a replication of life on Earth. They needed everything that they had in real life in order to be able to sustain their life in the hereafter.
Pinomus knew he would still get hungry and thirsty in the next world, so needed to take food and drink with him. Over 4,000 years ago, these plates would have been piled high with fruits and other delicacies.
We found 6 offering tables. It was at the top of the shaft. Maybe the biggest one here for Pinomus himself, the owner of the tomb, and the rest of them for the rest of his family.
But Pinomus wasn't the only one who made sure he'd have enough to eat after death. At Saqqara, there are many other tombs which reveal fascinating details about how the ancient Egyptians prepared for the afterlife. The team finds extraordinary evidence of the kind of food people took to the grave.
Oh, dum henna. So this dum fruit, usually we find it beside the dead person as offering. So maybe the ancient Egyptians use it in afterlife, they eat it.
Dum palm fruits are still popular in Egypt today. Their tough exterior allows them to dehydrate slowly without rotting.
If I put, for example, mango or apple or something, it will destroy quickly, so you couldn't find it after a short time. But these have very strong skin from outside, so it can stay for a very, very long time.
A fruit for the afterlife. Incredibly, still intact after millennia. The ancient Egyptian belief that food and drink were needed in the afterlife was so important that 1,500 years after Pinomus was alive, people still took supplies with them. But now there was an easier way to do it. Inside one of the megatombs, the team discovers a huge coffin from the late period, around the 7th century BC.
A very heavy coffin, 300 kilograms, I'm sure.
Inshallah. ايوه 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 ارفع كده.
Inside is a beautiful inner coffin. And on the protective outer box is a glimpse of what this man wanted for dinner in the afterlife. A hieroglyphic menu of beer, bread, oxen, and poultry.
The food and rings and everything he wished to be with him again in his afterlife.
This man was buried in a communal tomb down a deep shaft. It would have been impossible for people to leave him offerings of real food. But the inscriptions on his coffin meant he wouldn't go hungry.
By magic power, this list will become true again for him, so it will be easy for the deceased when he returns back to the life to eat and drink all these offerings.
In Pinomus's tomb, the real-life offerings made for him and his family have long since perished. But the team still hopes to find more clues about their lives and perhaps explain the strange condition of his tomb. Chief excavator Hamada Mansour is leading the hunt for evidence. This job is his vocation.
When I work, I forget all my life. Relatives, neighbors, everything. I'm just focused, my work. It's a hard moment when I switch on my motorbike to go home because I left my brain and my heart here.
Hamada begins by investigating one of the burial shafts in the southern corner of the tomb.
This is a family tomb, so this one maybe belongs to one of the family of Pinomus.
He can just make out another false door. This one is unfinished, but it has the makings of something special.
This one have no writings, but a good limestone, not like the mother rock. Maybe something different comes from this tomb.
False doors were expensive, so they were reserved for key members of the family. Pinomus's wife is the most important person after him, and her body is so far unaccounted for. Could she be buried here? The team clears the shaft. Site director Dr. Mohammed Youssef is the first to investigate.
Hey.
3 magnificent wooden figures lie inside. Old Kingdom statues like these have not been found at Saqqara in a quarter of a century.
It's easy to find stone statues, but to find wooden ones, wooden statues, that big, it was a really nice moment.
All 3 statues depict not a god, but a single human individual who lived in ancient Egypt. And they had a very important purpose for their owner.
In the Old Kingdom, large wooden statues are often placed within a tomb because they were regarded as an insurance policy, if you will, a spare tire. The Egyptians believed that if something happened to the mummy, the statue could take the place of the mummy and actually become the individual.
Tomb robbers who destroyed Pinomus's body likely took his statues too. But these ones remain untouched.
The thieves excavated all the shafts, and also this one, it was excavated in this time. But they didn't see that something hidden.
The statues have miraculously escaped being looted. Now, the team must identify who they belong to. Statues like these represent their owner at various stages of life. The ones here are male, so they can't belong to Pinomus's wife. One of Pinomes's sons, named Weriren, is depicted on the fall's door as an educated man of status.
The son of Pinomes has a title, a job. He was a scribe in the false door of Pinomes.
Weriren is shown leading Pinomes, suggesting he's the oldest son. There's a strong chance he owned the statues. If so, he would have inscribed his name on them. The archaeologists need to remove the statues for examination, but the operation will be delicate. Head of conservation Dr. Ashraf Ewais is worried they could disintegrate outside the safety of the tomb.
These statues are in this place for more than 4,000 years now, so they are used to this condition of this place. I think we need to wrap them well and try to take them more quickly to the lab. And what if something wrong happened, maybe one of them will fall apart.
Wood is an organic material which decomposes over time. These statues have been sealed from the elements, protecting them for millennia. But at Saqqara, there are daily reminders of how fragile wooden artifacts can be. Dr. Mohammed Youssef is overseeing the extraction of a beautiful wooden coffin from the northwest corner of the site.
The upper part is very nicely shaped. The coffin face is nice, human face, color with red color and green color for the hair wig.
The coffin lid is carefully removed by the team, but the rest of it has suffered decay and it comes out in pieces.
Destroyed by humidity and by insects, which make these holes. So it was very, very, very fragile and not strong. So you can see, it looks like about that.
Luckily, the statues in Pinomes's tomb were buried in a deep, closed chamber, so have escaped this fate. But once outside the tomb, the cracked wood might split completely with the change in temperature and humidity. The conservation team uses special chemicals to stabilize the statues for their journey above ground. The precious statues must be lifted out of the narrow and awkwardly shaped shaft.
So it's a historical moment, and you will see the beauty of that statue.
The statues are brought out into the open for the first time in almost 4,000 years. The team hopes they will shed new light on what happened to Pinomes and his family. But their next discovery could mean there's an imposter in the tomb. The team of archaeologists is unveiling 3 delicate ancient statues they have extracted from the tomb. They hold their breath to see if they've survived the move. Thankfully, this statue has remained intact.
I'm so happy to take it out safely. You know, my heart was beating when I removed the cover.
It's a very good moment now to see this statue, especially it is the first statue by this size in the Old Kingdom from wood during my work and my career in Egyptology.
Now, the team must try to identify the statue's owner. It could be Pinomes's eldest son, Weriren.
We need writings, we need inscriptions to help us to know who this man who made all the statues.
But frustratingly, this statue doesn't have any inscriptions. The second one doesn't either. As the team unpacks the third statue, it's their last chance to try to identify the owner. Excavation director Dr. Mustafa Waziri begins the inspection.
What I like the most, a mustache. It's in perfect condition of preservation. According to the condition of the wood itself, it's perfect. If we start looking at the face, the eyebrow, it's well made. Even the false wig, they made a lot of nice work in it.
The team continues the inspection. Then, they finally spot what they've been hoping for.
وهنا صباه وبعديها مخصص واحد واقف. هل الاسم هنا هيبقى صباه ولا الشيبسس نسون؟ دي حتب يا صبري مش بتاعي.
حتب.
حتب. وفي هنا 3 مخصص.
A set of inscriptions spells out a man's name, but it's not the one they were expecting. The statue is named as Hetep Ka. It's not Pinomus's son.
We don't know yet. We need to know more about the name of this guy. We have to study.
This man is not shown on the false door, so now the team faces a new mystery. Who is Hetep Ka? And what is he doing in the tomb of Pinomus, the Old Kingdom judge? As the archaeologists examine the statue, they come up with a possible answer. They find a familiar title, the sign of the jackal, representing a career as a judge.
He got the same title as Pinomus. He was also the judge. Hetep Ka, I believe that he was related to Pinomus in a way.
In ancient Egyptian society, it was very, very common for the hereditary succession of office. So younger members of the family would follow in the footsteps of older family members. It was not limited to father-son succession. A nephew, for example, a cousin could also benefit from that career path.
Hetep Ka might have ended up in the tomb of Pinomus because they were related. The team is now on a final push to find any other members of the family still buried in there. As they dig, they get results.
We can see remains of a skeleton of somebody.
One new set of bones is revealed. And then another. People who lived and died over 4,000 years ago. Their bodies and wooden coffins have been destroyed by the looters, who also took their burial goods. There are no inscriptions to give them a positive ID, but they are likely to be Pinomus's relations. Then, as Ahmed investigates a small shaft near the center of the tomb, he makes a discovery that stops the team in its tracks.
At the end of the shaft, in the west side, they found a small cut. In this cut, remains of human bones.
Inside is a shocking discovery. A delicate, ancient skeleton. These are the bones of a child. But as the team tries to discover their identity,
He didn't forget that he is a father.
they reveal a terrible family tragedy. The team has found the remains of a child in Pinomus's tomb. Like everyone else buried in here, the skeleton has been disturbed in the robbery. Most of Pinomus's family have lost their identities to history. So the team is more determined than ever to try to name this child. The information on the false door allows them to build a family tree. The inscriptions don't just show Pinomus, his wife Ipet, and their adult son Weriren. They also show other children.
We have, at the end of the fourth door, a small relief for a girl called Chinut. We know the girl because the ancient arts painted the girl yellow, so it is very easy to know from the color itself.
As well as a daughter, Canute. A son called Iha is also shown. Ahmed can tell he's young because of the way his hair is painted.
So Iha, from the reliefs in the false door, we can see the braid of youth from his head. It is clear, so we know that he was young.
2 children pictured, but which is buried here? The limestone window outside the entrance may hold more information.
He mentioned all his family. Here, his son, Iha, described.
Iha is now listed as having a career as a scribe. It's as if he's aged. But something else has changed.
They have 2 daughters, Ihat and Tintiti.
Canute is now missing, and 2 other daughters have taken her place. Pinomis's family has changed dramatically.
That meaning a long time passed between making the false door and making the window.
The false door was the first thing in the tomb to be built. By the time the window was later installed on the outside, Canute had gone.
It's amazing to have a scene like this. Her mother is standing like this, official, but the girl looking to her mother and playing with her. So maybe this was a sweet girl, their favorite daughter for them, so they loved it so much. Maybe this is favorite daughter for them died early.
The evidence suggests Pinomus could have suffered a heartbreaking loss.
We know that he takes a very good title, the great judge, or the strong judge. But here, he didn't forget that he is a father, is a human being. He lost one of his girls.
Pinomus was a wealthy man of status. He should have had a highly decorated tomb. His tomb is unfinished because of the sudden death of his beloved daughter.
This is exactly what was happens. She did die. Quickly, seal the tomb, shut. Then later on, Pinomus, his son, his little brother, one of his relatives, he did die. What am I gonna do? Okay, use the tomb as quick as possible and then shut the door.
Pinomus buried his daughter in the tomb before construction work was complete, and then sealed the entrance to preserve it as a sacred space. This family tragedy is the reason why Pinomus's House of Eternity looks so bare. The tomb was only reopened when he and other family members later died. Pinomus may have been prevented from creating a beautiful tomb to stand as a monument for him and his family. Great tragedy stood in the way of his legacy, but his name is no longer forgotten.
Millions of people will know Pinomus and his wife. All the people will speak about Pinomus. He will say, thanks to you and your team that you helped me to be again in the light.
Pinomus wanted to immortalize his loved ones in a spectacular tomb. This team's discoveries will ensure his family's story does indeed live on.